Hey, what's up, friends? Today we're going to talk about a client case that I had this one's been a couple of years, but it's pretty amazing. It's regarding infertility, difficulty in conceiving. And so for this client case, we will call the client Monica. And Monica was a 29-year-old female at the time, and she came to see me through a referral from another healer friend who had been working with her and thought that maybe my services could benefit and help her with what she was dealing with. Okay, so when I saw her husband, she and her husband had been trying to conceive for 5 years. 5 years, and they had done everything, including IVF, and still not resulted in pregnancy. So she was just disheartened, really devastated actually, because she's like such a maternal, sweet, nurturing kind of gal that you could just tell she'd be an amazing mother. And so it was really, really interesting. So she came to me kind of at her wit's end, lowest of low, just like, I think I got to give this up. And it's like the devastating loss of a dream of a family. And so I was like, all right, cool. So lay her down on the table, start the session, assess the outer layers of the auric field. And once we get down into kind of the pelvic area, it was really incredible and fascinating what I saw. So a lot of times I see fibroids, which we'll talk more about in different videos. That gets into a lot of times sexual abuse or some sort of shame, toxic shame fibroids are about. But for Monica, we actually had a thickening of the uterine lining. So the uterus looked thicker in terms of the lining, but there was no fibroids. But when I was coming down to place my hands just above the pelvis region, there was like this pushing away energetically. It was almost like this pushing away. And I was like, well, that's not physically, I'm talking energetically. I was like, well, that's really curious. What's this about? So I just held my hands there very gently. And when we're doing energy work, what it is we can put the hands just above the body, or you can do a gentle touch. And in that, I get visions and information about any blocks or imbalances that are stored in the body. Okay, just that's how it works for me. So as I have my hands placed very gently on her tummy, on her womb space, I saw that she comes from a really entangled, tight-knit Irish Catholic family, and it was just like this really tightly woven unit. And Monica, my client, was a caregiver to multiple generations of this family. She had this tremendous sense of obligation, a tremendous sense of identity and purpose to be serving her family, to show up for her family, and she was giving a tremendous amount of herself to this role. And that's cool. What was happening though is on the subconscious level, we got down in and I was able to see Monica's essence, or kind of a younger version of her, and she was wrestling with the question of whether or not she would be able to have enough energy to still support and take care of her family if she was actually to conceive a child and have a baby in a family of her own. So there was this push-pull dynamic happening within herself, deep in her subconscious, and the subconscious manifests in the physical body. And so I was like, girl, I see this. There's quite this push-pull dynamic going on here. What you got going with that? Are you aware of that? How does it express for you? Instantly burst into tears. She had so much shame and so much guilt because she felt so obligated and torn. She felt like she'd be betraying her biological family if she had a family of her own, but she really wanted a family of her own. So she was having this internal conflict. Well, the internal conflict manifested as thickening of the uterine lining, which is going to, not necessarily be great or conducive for uptake of a fertilized egg, right? Plus, we had this energetic, pushing out. It was almost like this rejection energy. And so when we talked about that, she had this huge catharsis, just weeping on the table, going through all of the shame and all of the guilt. And it's so important in healing that we allow ourselves the space to be able to go through and process and feel those really difficult emotions, right? So after, it's like pulling the cork out of a champagne bottle or something, or like breaking the levee, and then it finally just goes like, and so she was weeping and weeping, and her whole body's like shaking and shaking, and her pelvis is, you know, kind of moving, and it was almost like a birthing kind of pain, but it finally released and integrated, and she got very calm. And so after the session, you know, I like to give people tools and homework, and she was just so candid and forthright about, she had felt that she had that internal conflict, but she didn't know like how pronounced it was, and she didn't know that it was such a huge issue, and all the guilt and all the shame like that she was holding in her body were really blocking what she truly wanted, right? So fast forward, we gave her some yoga poses, specifically focused on opening up the hips. We gave her some supplement type aftercare, homework. And the long and the short of it is, you guys, and this is not due to me, this is due to her, okay? Her willingness to really get in there and finally face all the stuff. She conceived within 1 month, carried to full term, delivered a healthy baby girl who is now however many years old. It's a true story, absolutely amazing, and it just is another indication like how it's all interconnected. This is such an incredible world, and once we understand how conscious awareness, subconscious awareness, body mechanisms, systems, all of this, like once we understand how to bring it into harmony, then we can really start to create from an empowered place and live the life of our dreams, really. So thanks for listening. I've got a ton more client cases to share with you, and I hope this helps you feel good, because again, feeling good feels good.